welcome to FACEHAMMER and our book review for the Sons of Behemat Battletome that's just gone up on pre-order. Normally these shows are out on release day, or on pre-order day I should say. Unfortunately we weren't able to record it in time due to the FACEHAMMER GT, which is just finished over the weekend, so thank you for your patience. Luminef show went up, but I thought I'd record a solo video as Byron's availability has been a bit difficult to pin him down, and talk about the Sons of Behemat. Now GW did actually send me the Sons of Behemat Battletome, so thank you very much for this physical copy. They did send me a digital copy as well, so I could prepare, but I only like to do it with a physical copy really. And then I also got sent a King Brodd, so I thought it was useful for people who collect Sons of Behemat to understand how this kit is different to a normal Mega-Gargant. So I'm going to do a little bit different in this video. I'm going to do a top-down view, and I'm going to show some of the sprues and the instructions and talk about how you could magnetize and potentially get these bits into your normal Mega-Gargants and some of the things that I've been thinking about with my Mega-Gargant army, because that might be useful for people who've already got a Mega army, don't want to buy lots of Megas, but want the new variants. So obviously, I know Sons of Behemat's a very converted army, so people might just use a conversion for him and other things. So let's start off with that before we get into the rules. I will put a timestamp so you can skip to the rules if you're not really interested about this bit, but you know, maybe you want to watch it. So this is the instructions, which is probably the most useful thing for people who want to know how the new kit works. So we can see that this variant, the B-Smasher, is pretty much all the Gatebreaker. So it's all, this is the same. The only difference is the hand holding this hammer, and this is the Warstomper head with a different head on it. So there is actually a really cool thing in the book, which has got the, I'll show you that in a minute. It's got the Gatebreaker cowl with the Warstomper beard, and I actually quite like that as a variant head, which is what I'm going to build on one of my Megas. Now, actually, if you've already got a Gatebreaker and you've magnetized, the only challenge you're going to have if you want a King Brodd, some of the hammer is used to make this, the Menhir Club. So you're going to struggle a little bit. And also King Brodd comes with his own special arm to have this double-handed hammer. Now, what you could do is you could just have this as a hammer in one hand, with some conversion work, and then the head, I don't know how easy this is to swap out. I haven't built mine yet. Yeah, so he's got his own, you're using this neck piece, which, and then you're basically putting on, he's got on his own sprue, he's got his own like back of the neck. I don't know. I'm sure that you could be easily do some conversion work on this to make this seamless. So you could just have a Mega with his head and then just change the arms around. Because obviously the idea is you don't want to have too much. You don't want to buy like £120 model and then have every variant a new model, because it's going to cost you a fortune. So what you want to do is magnetize. So he has got this back piece, which is this like cowl, and around the shoulder work, so, and obviously got this helmet as well. I mean, for me, what I'm probably going to do is build the King Brodd variant and then use the Menhir Club with the other Gargant kits I've got to make, and the Warstomper Club probably to make a Menhir Club, so I can magnetize one of them in, because it's a Gatebreaker basically. The challenge with the Menhir Club, if you look, so this is the King Brodd Club, and you've got these bits go together to make the hammer head, and you've got these two clasps that go either side of it, which are these pieces. Now these are actually used on this Menhir Club, which is the B-Smasher variant, but what I would do is I would just glue those two together and then green stuff the strapping, and then use the base of probably use this club, the base of the Warstomper Club, so where it finishes here, put the Menhir on here, and then like do some green stuff wrapping. Obviously, like, you can just use pretty much anything to do that, and sculpting wood isn't that difficult. So, you know, you've got this, let me get out of the way, you've got this club here, this bit here, which together, which goes underneath the hand for the Warstomper, I believe. So that's a way you can get a B-Smasher. And if you've already got a Gargant kit, obviously with the King Brodd kit, you get all the arms. So you could just magnetize those for the ones you've already done. If you haven't magnetized, then you could just rip the hands off and give it a go, because that's what I've done on one of mine. But you get the head there, which is the B-Smasher head. Let me get this out of the way. So you get the B-Smasher head here. You've got the King Brodd head. These are his like shoulder pieces. That's the hammer. That's his back piece. That's the arm that I mentioned that holds the two-handed hammer. And he's got the little impy things. These little things that go on his shoulders. I think that's his head there. So these little weird imps. But yeah, this is the sprue that is extra. So the King Brodd kit is basically a Mega-Gargant with this extra frame. Now, I don't know if they're going to sell that separately, direct only or something, because there's a lot of people with Megas. You've already got 4. You probably don't want to buy a whole new Mega kit. Also, if you wanted to run multiple B-Smashers, you only get 1 Menhir Club. But basically, a Menhir Club is just a big lump of rock. So you could just use foam or green stuff, or go on like 3D printing websites and get like a rock, because there isn't really any detail on it. It is just a stone. I mean, you could even use a piece of slate if you really wanted to. I think if you want to run King Brodd, buy this, and then you run him, and then you've got 1 club. If you want to do a second one, then I'll just convert it. I wouldn't be buying out 3 new Megas if you've already got a Mega army. But I just wanted to show the frame off of the model and the instructions, which shows you how the variants are built, because that's quite useful to understand with the color coding where you're getting these extra bits from and what the difference is. It's the same frame as a Mega-Gargant, it's the same legs, so the pose is exactly the same. The only difference is the arms are doing that or whatever. So yeah, it's a bit disappointing they didn't do something with the legs. They didn't do a different pose, because that would have opened up so much with the other Megas. Because if you had a different like frame that the other bits work on them, you could mix and match and do something a little bit more interesting, even if the legs were just slightly different, you know, going the right foot forward or left foot forward, even if something basic like that. But I know they kind of get the variance in the army by shifting the bodies around. But yeah, for me, like, I'm going to use this as my Warstomper / B-Smasher, and all I'm going to do is where this club end is, I'm going to put that Menhir Club going this way and green stuff it. And obviously I'm going to build King Brodd out of this kit. And I've already got 2 Krakens and 2 Gatebreakers, so I'm just going to convert my Gatebreaker into this using this arm. So he's going to be he's already using this arm, because I didn't want another one holding a man, so I just put this arm on. And yeah, so I'll do that. So I think I'm using this arm actually, so I can do that. So change the hand for this hand, magnetize it so he's holding the club up. But anyway, I'm sure you'll work it out. So that's the model done. Hopefully that was useful for people. Obviously I haven't done mine yet, and like people out there probably have great ideas for conversions. There'll be stuff out there, so let us know in the comments below if you've got any cool ideas to convert yours. I know I saw someone who already had one with a double hammer and they just were not going to use this. Anyway, so we're going to talk through the match play rules now. I know this has probably been out there and people have read other reviews or seen it already. What we like to do is give our kind of competitive play take on it, so hopefully it's more useful than just reading the rules if they've been published out there on the webs or from pictures. So go through the allegiance abilities. So we've got mightier makes rightier, so each Mega-Gargant has a value. So this is going to work. This is their capture power. Okay, so this is going to work like Kragnos now. They used to just have a flat value. If they had 1 wound left, they still counted at that value. Now it degrades, which is a massive change for Megas, because there was always that DPS check people talked about, that if you were stood on objective and you survived, it was like you capture it. If you're dead, you don't get it. Now those brackets of wounds are going to be really important. because obviously that's going to matter whether you capture or not. So that's going to be a lot more. I think that's going to be a lot better for both people. Like, I mean, it's not as strong, but I think it's a lot better play experience for the people on the other side of the table, because Mega-Gargant's always felt a bit all or nothing. So having a bit more middle ground is a good thing. So you've also got Mancrusher's count as 10, so double value from a monster, basically. This is a little bit of a change as well. So Lord and Master, you declare whether you're a breaker, taker, smasher, stomper, but that means your general has to be that variant. So if you go on Gatebreaker, your general has to be the Gatebreaker. Generally, I think that was the case with most armies, but I think sometimes you saw taker tribes with a Gatebreaker general because you wanted to load that one up and that was your combat power. So it's quite interesting. You get some additional allegiance abilities. Now this is really cool. This is new. This is awesome, and this makes me want to model my Mega-Gargants like they're wrestlers, because it's just awesome. So you've got Wrath of Titans. It's a cool name of a rule. You can't really go wrong with that. When you do a monstrous rampage, you can carry out one of the ones below. Now these ones are super good. So you've got a beast grapple. You could pick a monster within 3 and roll a dice. On a 3+, it's strike last. So you basically like grapple it, put it in the walls of Jericho, you know, whatever you do, you know, whether you put it in the crossface, you know, put the brutalizer on, just make it go last. So, which is awesome. Then you've got a earth-shaking roar, which is pick an enemy unit with wounds characteristic 1 or 2 within 3 inches and roll 2d6. If it's higher than the bravery, by each point, one model flees. So it just runs away. It's not considered a battle shock test, so you can't auto-pass it. You can't mitigate it. So any bravery debuffs are actually going to be huge, because you know, you're fighting against something like Sylvaneth. Obviously, they like to do stuff like charge you, fight you, then run away. You can roar them and make some run away, like, and they're not exactly high bravery. So I think this could be really good. I mean, if you get like a multiple wound model and you rolled like an 11, you're just going to be like, you just lose like most of your unit. I mean, like Zangor Skyfires or Enlightened, that's pretty ridiculously good. Beastmen are quite prevalent, Dragon Ogres, you know, anything like that. I mean, I know they got high, you can get to bravery 8 or something like that, but it's worth a shot, you know. Then you've got Colossal Slam, so you pick an enemy monster that's not part of a unit consisting of 2 or more models and is within half an inch of the unit. Roll a dice. On a 3+, you can remove that monster from the battlefield, set up anywhere wholly on open ground within half an inch of this unit. They take D3 mortal wounds, in addition -1 to hit. For attacks made by the unit carrying out. In addition, subtract 1 from hit rolls for attacks made by the unit carrying out this rampage. So basically, because you're doing that, you're less likely. For attacks made by the unit carrying out. So it's the one that does it, not the. I'm just reading it to make sure. So it's when you do the monstrous rampage and you slam them, you're -1 to hit, because you're kind of concentrating on doing that, I guess. But what's really good about this is you can reposition them. So with Mega-Gargants, you can set up in the triangle, which is quite a common formation. You sort of say the triangle of doom, and you can do this monstrous rampage to pick the monster up and put them in the gap. So if you've got like 1 at the front, 2 here, and they charge, and you go, right, I'm gonna slam you, pick you up, drop you in between all 3 Mega-Gargants, then this one's gonna grapple you, and then this one's gonna roar you. You've got no CP, you've striking last, and you've taken some mortals, and then all 3 megas just bash your face in. Of course, this would be great when you play the mirror match. It's very much going to be a little bit like, did I get the Colossal Slam off? And I know that monsters feel a little bit polarized like that with Raw. Like, it's like, oh, did I get it off or not? But you could even do something like they slam you, you slam them. So you can like sort of play this game of chucking people around, which should be quite interesting. Super thematic. And I think even having stuff to try and block this, or you know, get in the gaps, or setting up little traps would be quite useful. And yeah, it's good. I don't think you won't get to use this with an ally in your army, because it's an allegiance ability for Sons of Behemat armies, not for just megas in general. So if you allied in a mercenary, they can't do this, I believe, unless they've got a rule later on. We've got big personalities, command traits. So these are generic. These are on all of the tribes. So you've got the general has a wounds of 40 instead of 35. 5 extra wounds is great. It's one of my go-tos. Ferocious temper. Once a battle, when the general's picked a fight, you can see that overcome with rage. Use the top row of the general's damage table regardless of how many wounds. So fight at your top. You've got +1 to charge rolls for Behemat units wholly within 18. That's just going to be great because if you don't charge, you're not doing anything. So failing a charge with the Sun's army is horrific. You've got some artifacts. Now, some of these you'll recognize, and these are actually generic now. So any of the tribes can take these. So you've got extra calloused feet. So mono arm with Almighty Stomp only. The Bearer's Almighty Stomp has an attacks of 3 instead of 2, a rend of 3 instead of 2, and a damage of 3 instead of D3. So these are like the Kraken sandals from the old book. Then you've got the Glowy Shield of Protectiveness. Now this one is fantastic and will probably be the go-to. So you've got when this unit is targeted by an attack, if the weapon has a rend of 1, change it to no rend. In addition, if the unmodified save roll for an attack made with a melee weapon that targets bearer is a 6, the attacking unit takes a mortal wound. So it's a mortal wound reflection, plus it gives you a reduction on rend against shooting and melee. This is probably the replacement for the Ironweld Cestus, which was in the old Stomper tribe, which you didn't see it very often, but this is great. So I think the Glowy Shield, you'll see that all the time. That's like the new go-to in my opinion. You've got Scavenger Wake. Once per battle, to start the combat phase, pick an enemy unit within 3 inches of the bearer, roll a number of dice equal to the number of models in that unit. For each 4 plus, they take a mortal wound. So again, that's pretty good. Because it's a way of just thinning out infantry. I don't think they need that because they've got special rules now to do with Inspiring Presence, with Terror, so I don't think you're going to need that. I don't think you'll see it. And then you've got the Amber Bone Totem. The bearer can attempt to charge even if they ran. So run and charge. It's an aggro option. Of course, that's very strong, particularly on a Mega-Gargant, because you just, that is just able to get where you need to be. With that and the +1 to charge, you could have quite a long threat range. Then we're into the tribes. So take tribes, which is your Krakens. So you've got get rid of them for the purpose of contesting objectives. Each Mancrusher Gargant counts as 15, and you add 5 to your Mightier Makes Rightier value for Kraken Eaters only. Now, it used to be that all of your Mega-Gargants had it. It's only Kraken Eaters now. And you've got, I want that for my collection. It's a command ability. So they've all got command abilities that work with Mancrushers. So it kind of encourages you to take mini Gargants. And because the way the points are, you're probably going to end up with a unit of mini Gargants in your army every time because you can't get 4 good Megas, in my opinion. And if you take an extra Mega, I think 3 Mancrushers is actually better than a Mega. But we'll talk about that later. So it says you can use the command ability to start the combat phase. It can only be issued by your general. That's important. It's a bit like a war, and the unit that receives it must be a friendly Mancrusher Gargant unit. To the end of the phase, add 1 to the damage of its melee weapons that targets an enemy unit that has the artifact of power or is unique. So +1 damage against an artifact wielder or a unique unit. It's very restrictive because you need Mancrushers. It needs to come through your general. They need to have an artifact or be unique. So it's a lot of ifs, and I'm not sure it's that good. But +1 damage, if you're in the right situation, is strong. You've got a very acquisitive command trait. So these are the ones you can take instead of the core ones if you want. This is if you give an artifact to the general, you can pick an additional artifact, and you can have 2, and both have to be different. I don't know why, because they're unique anyway, but I don't know why it says that. Extremely intimidating. Enemy units within 6 cannot receive Inspiring Presence or Rally. Now, they've already got that within 3, so it just extends that distance. Again, I don't see that being taken. Then you've got the artifacts. You've got Walloper, Tentacle. Start of the combat phase, pick an enemy hero within 3 inches of the bear and roll a dice. On a 4+, they take D3 mortal wounds and strike last. So that's quite nice if you want to basically say, well, you're going to go last, but it's on a 4. So it's not very likely, but it might make your opponent wary charging that Gargant. It is only on a Kraken Eater, and I don't think there is punchy, as they need to be to kill, like a Mancrusher or something like that, so I'm not sure. Glowy Lantern. In your hero phase, the bearer can attempt to cast a spell that summons an endless spell, and the range is doubled. So you need to buy the endless spell. It doesn't make you wizard anymore, so you're not doing you know, all the stuff that wizards do. Obviously arcane tome is probably going to be prevalent in Gargant armies as usual, but it's quite nice that you get double range, so you might want to use that. I don't know. I think you just take arcane tome and take the endless spell rather than worry about this artifact. But if you wanted a second person to cast that and the other guy to do Mystic Shield, you could do that. So yeah, Kraken's a bit underwhelming, I think, the Taker tribe. Breaker, so this has come to prevalence as the most popular one at the moment. So you've got add 1 to damage inflicted by each Mancrusher Gargant that targets an enemy unit that is part of a garrison or wholly on a terrain feature. So it's not really going to come up very often. You've got ramming speed. Use the command ability at the start of your charge phase. It can only be issued by your general, and the unit that receives it must be a Mancrusher unit. So it's the same as it's the Mancrusher ability. To the end of the phase, you can attempt to charge that receives the quantity is within 18 of the enemy instead of 12 and roll 3d6. So that's really good because that's just extra range. So you can't, you know, more likely to go in. The chance at rolling really high and going around the back. I mean, like, you know, ramming speed, that's a great one. You have to make that decision whether you use that or you use the reroll, because obviously it's a command ability. So, and you've got Fierce Loathings. When you take a Breaker tribe army, pick one of the Fierce Loathings, record it on your army roster. The rule applies to friendly Gatebreaker and Mancrusher Gargant units. So this is basically only Gatebreakers and Mancrushers, which I believe it is in the old book. And basically you get to add 1 to hit rolls if the enemy target is an enemy hero or wizard. Or you can add 1 if you take Idiots with Flags. Add 1 if the enemy is a totem or has command, which is always the popular one. Or wannabes if they're a war machine or a monster. So it's basically +1 to hit against one of those types of units for your Gatebreakers and your mini Mancrushers. I think Idiots with Flags is generally the most accepted as the one that everyone takes. There's quite a lot of stuff with the totem keyword and things like that. I mean, it depends whether or not you want to be good against heroes and wizards. There's a lot of units which are wizards. There's a lot of monsters are heroes, so maybe that's a better one. It's really dependent on the meta and what you think you're going to struggle with and what you're going to face. You've got command traits, so extremely bitter. You can pick a second Fierce Loathing. I don't really see the point of that. Then you've got Seize Red. In the combat phase, generals within 3 of a defensible terrain or enemy unit that is on a terrain use the top row on its damage. So again, you're just taking the extra wounds, in my opinion. Then you've got the Breaker tribe artifacts. You've got the Great Wrecker. If a modified hit roll for an attack made by his Fort Crusher Flail is a 6, it does D3 mortal wounds in addition. So some nice mortal wound output. The King's Slaughter Cowl. Add 1 to wound rolls made by the bow that target an enemy hero. So obviously if you've got that and you take Bossy Boots, Clever Clogs, that's +1 hit, +1 to wound. That's pretty good in terms of increasing the output with no CP spent, nothing. +1 to wound is strong. Obviously it only applies to heroes, but still good. I'm still not sure you're going to take that over the ward and the rend reduction and the bounce back, because that's just, you know, that's just really strong. Then we're into Smasher, and this is the new allegiance. So this is for the B-Smasher Mega-Gargants. So it says, when a friendly Mancrusher Gargant fights within 3 of an enemy monster, you can see it will unleash a bone-crunching strike. So until the end of the phase, the attacks of its club is 1, cannot be modified, but the damage is 4d6, and all the attacks of his Master Club must target the monster. So if you've got a unit of 3 mini Mancrushers, like just 3 attacks and they do 4d6 damage against a monster, that's pretty good. It's very scary for anyone who's running. It's also amazing in the mirror, because obviously you're facing against Mega-Gargants. These are all anti-monster. You're probably going to be really good in the mirror. Then you've got don't let a few cuts stop you. So you've got use this command ability to start the combat phase. And again, it's Mancrushers, and that's to be issued by your general. To the end of the phase, use the top row of its damage table, regardless of how many wounds it's suffered. In addition, until the end of that phase, each time a model in the unit is slain that's not fought, it can fight before being removed from play. Again, very strong, especially on like minis. I really like Smasher tribes with 2 units of 3 minis and 2 smashers. I just think it's a really strong list. You've got Sea Green. Once per battle, at the start of the phase, these are command traits. You can say the general is Gorka Morka Made Manifest. Is a ward of 4+ against mortal wounds until the end of the phase. Situation, maybe. I'm having a 4-up mortal save might be good if you're going to face a Zinch Magic phase coming at you or something like that. Then you've got Marrow Drinker. Each time an enemy monster is slain by this general, roll a number of dice equal to the monster's wounds. For each 5+, you can heal a wound. And that's great, because, you know, you're good against killing monsters. If you kill a monster, you can heal. I mean, if you kill another Mega-Gargant, you're going to heal a third of your wounds back. It's pretty crazy. You've got Smasher artifacts. So you've got the Shatterer, which is B-Smasher only. The modified wound roll made for the bearer's Menhir Club targets enemy hero, monster, or war machine is 6. That unit's armor has been shattered. Until the end of the battle, ignore positive modifiers for save rolls for that unit. So interesting. Quite good, because obviously if you roll a 6 on those attacks, you go, okay, now your armor's smashed, so you don't get your all up defense or your Mystic Shield. And we know how good save stacking is, so being able to get rid of that completely on that key target you need to drop. You've got Mantle of Tusks and Horns. Again, B-Smasher only. Once per battle at the start of the command phase, you can say the bearer will channel the War. Add 1 to hit rolls for attacks made by melee weapons by friendly Sons of Behemat units until the end of that phase. So that's just all of the models in your army +1 to hit for that phase. Super nuts good. Like, you know, I'll get +1 to hit across my whole army. It's not a command ability, so then I don't worry about, you know, my command points. I don't worry about not being able to issue because raw. I don't have to worry about doing Titanic Duel. I don't have to worry about, you know, any of that. So just +1 to hit, across the board. That's pretty good. I still think the defensive item's better, but it's still good. Depends what you want to be doing with your army, really, isn't it? Then you've got the Stomper tribe. So got Big Shouts. After he issues a command to a friendly Mancrusher Gargant, to the end of the phase, he can issue the same to another Mancrusher Gargant without further command points being spent. So it allows you to cascade through like a Mancrusher. You've got Grab those rocks and chuck them. Use this ability to start your shooting phase. The unit that receives it must be a Mancrusher Gargant unit. Add 1 to the attacks of its throwing rocks. So obviously, if you've got 3 units of Mancrushers and 1 Warstomper, they can all get that ability. You've got Get Stuck In. Add 1 to the damage of each successful attack made by a Mancrusher Gargant if the target enemy unit has 10 to 19 models. But you also add 2 to the damage by an attack made by the Mancrusher Gargant if the target's an enemy unit that has 20 or more models. So basically, they're really good at killing hordes. So if you take Warstomper, you pretty much want to go as many Mancrushers as you want. Maybe 2 threes or 9 and 1 Warstomper, or 2 Warstompers and 6 minis. The Warstomper's the cheapest Mega-Gargant. I'll get onto the points in a minute when I talk about the warscrolls. You've got Inescapable Grip command trait. So when he uses the Hold body ability, you can reroll both dice. Again, just 5 extra wounds is probably more important. And then Eager for the Fight, you can attempt to charge if it's been 18 instead of 12 and roll 3d6 instead of 2d6. That's very good. So that's a good command trait. Then you've got Stomper Tribe Artifacts, Club of the First Oak. In your hero phase, you can heal 1 wound allocated to the bearer. In addition, while the bearer has 25 or more wounds, they have a ward save of 5 up. That's very good. You know, that for me is probably better than the other defensive item, which is the glowy shield. If you take 2, probably get glowy shield on 1, club on the first, the other. If you want the, I always think defense is better than offense, especially with the way that it works around scoring objectives. Got Mantle of Destroyer, Warstomper only friendly, Sons of Behemat units within 12 have a bravery characteristic of 10. Yes, might be important, but I really don't think you care about that. You haven't got many units to worry about that, so I wouldn't bother. So, grand strategies. So that's all the allegiances. It's quite a lot. 4 different tribes. I think B-Smasher, if Sons of Behemat are popular, I think B-Smasher will be the best one, because in the mirror, you're just going to stomp the other person if they're not a B-Smasher army. Unless you don't roll a 3+ on your slam. You know, slam. So grand strategies, you've got Brodd's Revenge. You can only pick this grand strategy if your army includes King Brodd. When the battle ends, you complete this grand strategy if the friendly King Brodd has not been slain, and you picked each of the 3 effects of the power of Behemat Prayer to apply at least once during the battle. We'll talk about that in a bit. If you're taking King Brodd and he survives, you're pretty much going to do that. So it might be a case you just say, well, I'm taking Brodd. If he dies, I lose that grand strategy. If he doesn't die, I've probably won the game anyway, so it doesn't think it's going to matter. You've got Make the Land Tremble. When the battle ends, you complete this grand strategy if any friendly units ran or made a charge in every battle round. It does not have to be the same unit that runs or makes a charge move in every battle round. If any units ran or made a charge in every battle round. Yeah, so as long as every battle round you're running or charging with a model in your army, you're okay. So obviously if you end the game with no models, then you won't get that. When the battle ends, you complete this grand strategy if every friendly unit is within enemy territory. It might be easy, that one. I don't know. Probably not. Shermu's boss. Start the battle. The enemy unit with the highest wounds is marked as the big un. If there are multiple enemies tied for highest wounds, you can pick which would be the big un. You complete this if the big un's been slain and the model chosen to be your general has not been slain. So it's okay. It's a little bit, because you got to kill their big one and leave your general alive, so it might be difficult. I mean, normally you lose a mega or 2 during a game, so yeah, might be good, might not be. I don't know. They're all like they're like very easy. I think maybe Make the Land Tremble might be the best one, but then you're either running or charging generally. So you should do that if you don't lose all your models. Unless you get pinned in combat, and then you can't. So then maybe not. No, I don't know. Don't like those. Don't think they're very good. Then you've got battle tactics. So these are probably way more important than the grand strategy. So you've got That's Mine. Pick an objective on the battlefield that's not within your territory. You complete this tactic if the objective was kicked and is wholly within your territory. It's quite difficult. Because it says you can't even, the objective can't be like, it can't be one that's on the edge of your territory, because that's would be within. So it needs to be something that's completely out of your territory. In some maps there just aren't any, so I don't know, like it's difficult. You've got Wrecking Crew. If an enemy faction terrain was demolished during this turn, again it's a dice roll, it's a 3+, so maybe not. It's not amazing. Man Skittles, you complete this tactic at the end of the turn if a friendly Warstomper uses hold a body ability, the enemy model was slain, and an enemy battle line unit was picked as a second. Again, that's a lot of dice rolls, so I don't like that one either. You've got Fury of the Titans, you complete this battle tactic, you carry out the Beast Grapple, Earth Shaking Roar, and Slam this turn. So it says if you carry them out, it doesn't say they're successful, but I think you need to be 2 enemy monsters. I mean, you should know that you're going to be doing that in the turn that you do it. So, like, because you pick at the start of the turn, you should know that, okay, there's 2 monsters I'm going to charge, or within 3 of me, should be fine. Splat. Pick an enemy hero. Complete its tactic if the hero is slain by wounds caused by attack made by throwing rocks, hurled debris, or a hurled boulder. Could be easy if they got a hero on a wound or two, but, you know, again, it's dice rolls. Colossal Violence. Pick one friendly Mega-Gargant. You complete its tactic. You carried out the Titanic Duel with this unit during the turn, and the enemy monster picked as a target is slain. So that's a lot easier, because you know you're probably going to kill a monster that you're fighting with a Mega if you're going first. It's your turn. Right, I'm going to do Titanic Duel. You know, they can't stop you doing that. And then you just got to kill the monster with that model. And you could even attack it with another model and then almost kill it and then kill it with that one. So maybe that's probably the easier of them. None of them are guaranteed. They all resolve around dice rolls pretty much. What's nice about normally what you do with battle tactics, you want to pick the one that's, I can do this without rolling a dice, so just standing somewhere, just moving somewhere. They all seem a little bit dice dependent. Obviously Fury of the Titans isn't, but you need all three within range to do it, and you need 2 enemy monsters because 2 of them only work on monsters. It'd be interesting whether there'll be an FAQ probably that says you need to actually target somebody rather than just come doing this rampage, you know, because you need someone within range. Because I know like the Beastmen like to do their like wild point generation without being in combat, you know. It doesn't say it needs to be successful, it just means you need to carry it out. So we got the battalions, so these were in the White Dwarf. We got the bosses of the Stomp, which, you know, is the either you get Magnificent or Unified, so you can have a 1-drop 4 Mega Army if you want. Then the Foot Sluggers, which is 2 little ones. You could have a big one or a big one and 3 little ones, and again 1-drop or Swift. So what's quite nice about this, you should better get your army into a 1-drop if you really want to be a 1-drop. I don't know how important that is, but obviously doubling someone should pretty much be game over if you do that. So it might be popular choice rather than the second artifact. Yeah, interesting. Then we've got the mercenary rules, so they're still able to be mercenaries. So you can include a Beast Smasher mercenary, which is the new mercenary. And it says that this mercenary has the following ability in addition to the abilities on its war scroll. So Mighty Walloper, add 1 to hit rolls that target an enemy monster. So just gets +1 to hit against monsters, but he's still just a Beast Smasher mercenary, only for destruction. I think that'd be a popular choice. You've got, because also if Gargants get very popular, and they already are popular, having one of those is quite a good counter to that. You've got an Order or Destruction, could take a Kraken Eater. They get Dead Cunning. At the start of the combat phase, you can say that he will be uncannily cunning. The strike last effect applies to this unit. You can add 1 to hit rolls and win rolls until the end of the phase. I think that's exactly the same for Bundo. And then One-Eyed Grunnock, again, I think exactly the same. It's for Chaos, can take a Warstomper. Subtract 1 from hit rolls for attacks made by enemy units within 6 if this unit made a jump up and down attacks earlier in the same phase. So it jumps up and down, -1. Big Jog Fort Kicker. He's got the end of the combat phase, pick an enemy unit with 3, roll a number of dice equal to the number of models in the unit. For each 6, they take a mortal wound. So that's exactly the same. So they're exactly the same. Obviously, you've got the B-Smasher, the new one. We've got Kragnos. His war scroll is exactly the same as the one that was released as the in the White Dwarf or Battle Scroll. It's a Battle Scroll. So I'm not going to go through it. Because he's basically identical. He's still very good. Obviously, he is 720 points. So getting him in your army with megas, you have like 2 megas, Kragnos, and then you have like 1 mini. I think that was a list at FACEHAMMER. I saw 2 of those breaker armies like that. So yeah, he's still very good. But now you've got King Brodd, the new one. So he starts off with 40 wounds. One thing they have done with the megas, they've made them all movement 10. They've just got rid of that 12, 11, 10, depending what they are. They're all 10, which is a lot easier. Obviously, he's got his Obelisk of Tor Crania. which is the 4 attacks, freeze, rend 2, damage 5, which is very hard hitting. He's got his almighty stomp, 2 attacks, freeze, rend 2, damage D3, and a death grip. Freeze 2s, rend 2, damage D6. He's a war master, so he's a general in addition. He's obviously unique. He's obviously got the priest keyword, which is interesting. He gets +1 to hit and wound rolls made by his almighty stomp. If he's fighting someone with wounds catches of 3 or less, and a death grip, he gets to roll 2 instead of 1 for the damage, which has changed because it used to be reroll 1s. Now it's, if you get the attack through, you roll 2 dice and pick 1 for the damage on the monster, or you get +1 to hit for the stomp. So it's not +1 to hit and reroll 1s. So it's a little bit less reliable, because obviously the reroll 1s is probably a little bit better when you hit on 2s. So maybe they got a little bit weaker. Obviously it's taking out rerolls from the game. You got creepers. Each charge phase, the first time an enemy monster within 3 of this unit is picked to carry a rampage, roll a dice. If the roll is equal to or greater than the creeper's value, that monster cannot carry out a rampage. So creepers is on a 2+. Obviously, this basically makes you immune to things like roar, being slammed, things like that. So that's very good. Obviously, you need, if they have 2 monsters, 1 can do a rampage, and it's the first time. So your opponent, if they activate properly, will go, I'm going to Titanic Duel, 2 up, doesn't work, next one's going to roar you. So you have to be a little bit careful getting ganged up on. But he's quite a strong candidate to be your lead Gargant for the slam, if you're going to use that. He's got a D6 mortal wounds. So on a 2+, it takes D3 mortal to hit a monster, it takes D6. D3 if it's a monster, D6 if it's not a monster. Sorry. So obviously he's got these impact hits. I think all Gargants have got that. Long shanks, they've changed this rule again. They don't seem to understand like what that it's going to be, because obviously previously you could just stand over buildings. So now it says when it makes a normal move, run, or retreat, it can pass across other models that are not monsters and parts of terrain that are less than 4 tall. So if you've got a terrain like a battlements with a tower, this bit they can move over, this bit they can't. So it's a little bit janky, but it makes sense thematically and narratively that you can't stand over a massive tower. So I kind of like it. In terms of game mechanic simplicity, it's a little bit harder to get your head around. He's got the Son of Behemat ability. So the effect of a spell or ability would slay this model. Then you just take D6 mortal wounds. So all the sons have got this rule, the megas. Terror. This is the new rule that I was talking about earlier. So enemy units cannot receive inspiring presence while they're within 3 inches of any friendly units with this ability. So if you're in combat with someone, they cannot use inspiring presence to not run away and pin you in place. It's a huge rule because they could remove casualties out of 3, then use inspiring presence, but then you're not pinned in combat. They usually impact hits, and you can move over stuff. You could charge something else. So it's pretty strong. Like I think it's gonna allow you to not get bogged down, particularly with things that have high bravery and want to be in big numbers. Like even Nighthaunt will not like that, because they're bravery 10, but if they've got a unit of like 20 Grimgas and you kill 10, 11 of them, that's still gonna D6 more go away. So pretty good. You got the Timber rule. So again, this is the if you die, roll off, pick a point. Each model within 3 that's not a mega takes D3 mortal wounds. So it's just like fall over and do damage. Power of Behemat. So this is his kind of special rule that you get. So he is a prayer as an answer of 3, and you add 1 to the champion if any monster has been slain by this unit this battle. And you pick one of the effects below. So obviously, like the King Brodd grand strategy, you need to roll a 3 or a 2+, depending if you kill a monster, for 3 out of the 5 turns, so it should do it. Shatter the Mountains, add 2 to the movement of Sons of Behemat units. So very strong, because obviously extra move is people are used to 12-inch move in Gatebreakers, they're now 10, it's quite a big difference. And that's why the 3d6 charge is good. Might of the Earth, heal up to D3 wounds to each Sons of Behemat unit. It's pretty good. I mean, obviously, like, it's better now with the capture power, because that makes a big difference. And that's something I should cover, actually. So your wounds suffered, your might mix is 25, 20, 18, 15. You need to take 19 wounds to be 20, not 25, and you need to take 27 wounds to be 18, and then 35 wounds to be 15. So they're always going to count as 15, King Brodd. So they're still quite good on objectives. It doesn't mean just because they've done that bracketing doesn't make them bad. Anyway, then you've got Pummel All to Dust. Improve the rend of the following melee weapons by Sons of Behemat units by 1. So the Obelisk, Menhir Club, Shipwrecker Club, Titanic Boulder Club, Fort Crusher Flail, and Massive Club. So that's the club weapons, the main attack on all of your megas and all your minis. +1 rend for everything in your army. If you've got that turn where you're going in and you're doing this is important to get off, because basically like an extra rend is huge. So obviously you can only do, I believe you can only pick one of these once per battle, but obviously if you don't get the prayer off, you can still do it. And obviously you can use the universal prayers, so those are available. You can't give him an extra prayer because he's unique, but you can use the bog standard prayers, which I believe one's a ward. So he is, in terms of points, 580 points. So he's quite expensive, but he does quite a lot. And if you're running a normal general with the extra wounds, like, he's a great choice. The way the points work with Behemat is they're kind of, it's quite hard to get 4 megas in, because he's like 580, the Gate Crusher's 520, the B-Smasher is 520, the Kraken is 490, and the Warstomper's 450. So if you take 2 Warstompers, that's 900, you've got 1,100 points. You could then take a B-Smasher and King Brodd, and then you're at 2,000 points, bang on. The Mega-Gargants are 450 for free, or 150 per one. So basically you're going to have to take Warstompers or Mega-Gargants if you want to have 2 of the decent Gargants in your army. By taking King Brodd, you're going to lose the ability to take an endless spell, anything like that. So what you could do is you could, rather than take 2 Warstompers, you could take 2 Mancrushers, and you can obviously do King Brodd, Kragnos, B-Smasher, and a mini, I believe, fits, because Kragnos is 720, so King Brodd is 580, so it's going to be 800, 1300. Then a B-Smasher will be 1820, and that leaves you, a Mega-Gargant's 150. So you could take Kragnos, King Brodd, B-Smasher, 1 mini, and an endless spell if you wanted to do magic, whatever. So you've got the ability to do that. I think that'd be quite a strong list. But you'll see that there's ways to do your Gargant armies, like double breaker or double taker. Takers are 490. They're in a weird spot because they don't really free up enough points for you to take one of the better ones. And then, so you're basically, I don't think you're going to see takers very much. Kraken Eaters, sorry, because basically they're in the middle. They're in the middle. You could take 4 of them, but I don't think the objective kicks are strong. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you'll tell me I'm wrong. And that's fine. So, but I like the big hitty ones. I think most Gargant players will lean that way. B-Smasher. So this is the new Mega. So he's got 35 wounds. They've all got the same stat line: 35, 4-up save. Mightier makes righter. He's 20 models, and 2 takes 16 wounds. So he's 18, then he's 15, then he's 12. So obviously King Brodd's capture power is a lot better. He's got a Menhir Club, 3-inch reach, freeze 2s with 3 attacks. Rend is 3, damage is 5. The rend gets worse, but rend 3, damage 5. It's only 3 attacks, but they hit hard. That's a good hit. He's obviously got the Crushing Charge, he's got the Almighty Stomp, he's got the Death Grip, the Longshanks, the Sons of Behemat, the Terror, and the Timber, all exactly the same. So I'm not going to read these out every scroll. They're exactly the same on every war scroll. So his extra special rules are Beast Breaking Strike. So if it's been for each of an enemy monster, you can say it will release a Beast Breaking Strike. The characteristic of his club is 1, cannot be modified, but the damage is 5d6. So it's 5d6 damage rather than damage 5. So that's like pretty scary because minimum is 5. But obviously, on average, I think you're looking at like 17, 18 damage. So you should just smash whatever you're fighting fairly comfortably. So that's quite scary, especially as it's rend free. So I would, it's just so threatening. That is just such a threat. I know you only get 1 attack, but still, it's good. And then he's also got Behemoth Brawler. So at the end of the charge phase, if the unit's within 3 inches of any monsters, you can carry out 2 rampages instead of 1. Must be different, and each must target an enemy monster. So you could basically go like, I'm going to Death Grip and Roar, or I'm going to do this and that, or I'm going to... So like, pretty good because you get a 2 for 1. And they've got some good rampages now. Again, very good against in the mirror. So I think B-Smasher might overtake Taker Tribe just because the mirror. Because if you face other Mega-Gargants and they've got B-Smashers, you're going to be at a massive disadvantage because they've got so many bonuses against monsters. I don't know how that'll play out. I'm just not sure that Breaker... I think these will probably take over. I think there is a Warstomper list that'd be very good. With mini Mancrushers. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. Then we've got the Warstomper. So the Warstomper is basically the same. They've rounded out the wounds brackets a bit. You've lost a rend on Death Grips. Everything's rend 2, which actually, from an admin point of view, is quite good because you just know all their attacks are rend 2. They're all 3-inch reach. Then, you know, they've... all the rules are the same, you know, like Terror's changed to be no inspiring presence, etc., etc. You've got the Hurled Body ability, so after it makes a pile-in, you pick an enemy model within 3 inches and roll a dice. Add the modifier. If the rolls double the wounds, it's slain. Then pick another, roll a dice. On a 4+, you can pick a unit within 12. That takes number of mortals equals its wounds. So it's basically the same. It's a bit random. And then obviously you've the Death Grip has got the same rule, the Stomp's got the same rule, the Charge is the same, Sons of Behemat the same, and then you've got Titanic Boulder Club, which is the attacks is equal to the number of enemy models within 3 inches, and add the value. Add 4 for an enemy monster. So it's basically always 10 or less, and minimum will be pretty much 5, I believe, but depending on how many wins it's taken. So yeah, I mean, pretty much the same. All the Mega-Gargants are pretty much the same. They haven't really done a lot with them. So the Get Off Maland kick on the Kraken Eater. So in your hero phase, any friendly units with abilities are within 1. You can pick one of those, it will kick it. And then you basically roll 2d6 and move it. What's interesting here, you can only kick 1 per turn. It says, and it says that the values can change depending on where it's kicked to. A designer's note, because it says if any friendly units, and any is synonymous with 1 or more, are within 1 of objectives that you control, pick 1 of those units that will kick 1 objective. So yeah. You only do 1 a turn. It did have a bit of a confusing wording at the bottom that said you can't kick the same one more than once, which kind of meant people thought maybe you could kick more than once, but I believe you could always only ever kick 1. So that's his. That's the objective kick still there. The stats are pretty much the same. Obviously not rend free on Death Grip. Everything else is the same. You've got Stuff them in a net. After it makes a pile in, pick D3 any models within 3 inches and roll a dice. If the roll is at least double that unit's wounds, it is slain. So it's quite good because you can just D3 models, so you can pick the models. So I think the Kraken is probably the most underwhelming one. The objective kit can be pretty strong, but he's 490 points. I don't think they made his club any better. 4 attacks, and it's got a shiny thing on there, but the damage of his club is 4. So there you go. So I think it's higher than it used to be. So he's got 4 attacks, 3/3s, Ren 2, damage 4. I think that's actually better than it used to be. I'll just double check on the app. So Kraken Eater, what we got? Yeah, Shipwrecker Club used to be damage 2. And yeah, used to have 8 attacks. Now it's got 4 attacks at damage 4. So basically the output's the same, but more prone to missing and stuff. This is freeze and freeze, which it used to be. Yeah, so actually just roll less dice, and they've just increased the damage, which probably makes it worse because the ult is more affected by randomness. But yeah, so basically the same in a different way. Gatebreaker Mega, again, it's got 6 attacks, 4s, 3s, Ren 3, damage 4. I think it used to be damage 3, can't remember. But 6 attacks at damage 4, pretty strong. Obviously, attacks go down. It's got the hurled boulder still with an 8-inch range. They're all movement 10. They've all got the Mighty Makes Righter rule. Got the charge, got the stomp, death grip, long shanks, all the same. So it's got pulverizing strike. In fights, it can unleash a pulverizing strike. Instead of making attacks with its melee weapons, pick one enemy unit within 3 inches. Roll a dice. On a 4+, it takes 4d6 mortal wounds. So you just go, I'm not going to attack. I'm just going to do a 50-50. Do you take 4d6 mortals? So that's pretty crazy, because it's a bit all or nothing, and it's not a hit roll. It's just roll a dice. Yeah, that's a 50-50. It's a coin toss. I don't know how often you'll use it. I think unless you're fighting like Archeon with a 2-up rollable save or something, you might just go for it and say, well, if I get it, it's 4d6 mortals. But you could just roll low on the mortals. So I think you're better off just attacking like normally, because he's got a render 3 on his club anyway. So what's going to be getting a save? And you'll probably find that rolling your attacks, and he's a 4 to hit, but you can buff his hit roll fairly easily. Not sure about that rule. I'll see how often it gets used. Might be a bit of fun, but I can't see it myself. Then you've got Smash Down. Add 1 to the damage of its Mancrusher flail for attacks target enemy unit that is garrisoning a terrain feature. In addition, if you carry out the Smash to Rubble, roll a dice for each enemy unit within 3 inches of the terrain feature. On a 2+, take D3 mortal wounds. That's actually quite good, because they might just be around terrain and you go up and just kick it over and it does damage to everyone. It's also quite nice because if someone are in a building, -1 to hit and +1 save is actually quite a big deal. So yeah, it does kind of force people not to garrison. Yeah, and all the other rules are the same. So Gatebreakers, they're 520. Again, with the B-Smashers 520. Then we've got the Mancrusher mob. Now these are really good. So 12 wounds, 5-up save. They've got they're a monstrous regiment, but only the Warstomper can do a rampage. That's the champion, so you can't rampage with all of them. If it's wholly within 15 of a Mega-Gargant, it can charge even if it ran, so run and charge. After it's charged, pick a unit within 1, roll a dice equal to or greater than the stomping charge value. Takes D3 mortal wounds. If it has more than 1 model, allocate the mortal wounds to after all models. So basically, it's like you don't get to remove casualties to stop it. You've got to stuff them in my bag. After a model unit makes a piling move, pick an enemy model within 3, roll a dice. If it's double their wounds, it's slain. So it's quite strong, particularly against things like OBR, picking up Mortec champions and things like that. It's got the timber, so D3 mortal wounds. Ooze under the eel. If you carry the stomp with a bull stomper, roll 2+. For each Mancrusher, add 1 to the number of mortal wounds. So you get to add extra wounds because there's extra gargants. They all kind of all stomp on you at the same time. Obviously, you've got the massive club, which is 4 attacks, freeze, rend 1, damage 2. And then the headbutt, which has got damage 4, and the mighty kick, which is damage D3. Now, I believe these are... The massive club used to be damage 1, but it used to have 10 attacks, and now it's got 4 attacks at damage 2. And freeze, rend 1 is the same, so it's actually less output, technically. The headbutt we used to be 4s, so the headbutt is still 4s, freeze, rend 3, damage 4. Which is the same. So it looks like the clubs have just got a little bit like worse, less attacks, but yeah, interesting. Now obviously you've got the ability to do that smashy club thing if you're in beast in the beast stomper tribe, the stomper tribe. I think that'd be a popular list. Beast smasher or smasher tribe, sorry. Beast smasher, Kragnos, King Brodd, Mega-Gargant. Because even if the Mega-Gargant, you just gotta do 1 attack, see if I get the big attack through. Mancrusher is essentially exactly the same. You just get 1. You don't have a champion, so there's no difference really. So it's just you take 1 instead of 3. So the other one you get a champion because they're a monstrous regiment. The other unit is just 1. But exactly the same stat line, no difference. There's your points. So you've still got the battle line. If you're a battle line leader, Behemat. Interesting enough, like your Mancrushers are not obviously Behemoths because you wouldn't be able to take more than 4. So they're just battle line, and the points are fairly simple. You've got Warstompers at 450, King Brodd at 580, Kragnos at 720. Then the 2 best combat ones are 520. The Kraken Eaters are 490. You know, your Mancrushers are 150 each. And you can take them as a 3 or a 1. And everything's battle line, except for Kragnos. So, you know, even King Brodd is battle line. So you can take King Brodd, B-Smasher or Gatebreaker, depending on your tribe. Make them the general, tool them up, take Kragnos and take a mini. Or you could do something like, you know, King Brodd, Warstomper. And I don't think you could take a Kraken Eater because he's 490. I think it's just slightly out. Or you might be able to actually. So it's what, 900. I think you're 10 points over doing that. So yeah, but you could take, like, you can't take basically 4 Gatebreakers. If you take 2 Gatebreakers, the only other mega you could take is a Warstomper, basically. Same with B-Smashers. So the maths there is pretty simple. They've got no allies. And that's it. That's the Battletome. So is it stronger or weaker? I think it's got some options. Having a priest, King Brodd makes a big difference. Army-wide buffs, access to prayers. Will you see a list without King Brodd? Maybe, but I think he adds too much to not have him. You might see, we'll see a list without Kragnos for sure. But I quite like the King Brodd, Kragnos, B-Smasher or Gatebreaker, probably B-Smasher to deal with a mirror. And then you just run a Mega-Gargant, and that's your army. Very strong, I think. So, yeah, interesting. That's the Battletome. I hope you liked the review. If you did, leave a like, subscribe. Let us know what list you're thinking about doing, what your favourite tribe is. Obviously, sorry this wasn't out on the pre-order day. If you want to support the show, go into the comments. So the description, there'll be a link to Element Games, which is our sponsor. You can get discounts from their UK delivery. Also, FACEHAMMER merchandise. We've got objective rings, dice. There's a crystal code to get extra crystals, which allows you to then use for when you purchase stuff. You get crystals, which they can allow to get more money off future purchases. We always recommend Element Games because of the customer service. Yeah, and we've also got things like Ko-fi and Patreon and things like that. So if you want to sign up for anything like that, then let us know. Join the Discord, and hopefully you've enjoyed the show. Let us know what list you're thinking about doing. We will have quite a few Battletome reviews coming up because I think the schedule is getting a little bit tight now. I think a lot of the stuff's been delayed, but now we're going to start seeing things thick and fast. Ogre More Tribes will be coming shortly, and I believe there will be some more Battletomes to come as well, almost thick and fast. We would do a FACEHAMMER wrap-up show. I've got a Zinch Army tech show I want to do. I've got a team event in November, so I want to talk about my list that I'm thinking about taking for that. I might take Gargants, actually, looking at this. But yeah, so thanks for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next one.